Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in today to our first investor webinar on Wefunder. We really appreciate your time. My name is Alika Chuck. I'm co-founder and CFO of Farm Robotics. Marinas, do you mind giving a quick intro?
Yeah, my name is Marinas Dijkstra, CEO of Farm Robotics.
And we'll also be having our team member, Connor Bralton, our Chief Marketing Officer, moderating some of the questions that are going to be asked. So essentially, the way it's going to work today, we're going to go through a quick overview of Farm Robotics, followed by 5 follow-up questions from Connor, and then we'll open it up to the audience to ask any remaining questions. So probably last between 20 to 25 minutes, and yeah, we welcome all questions. So thanks again for your time. So we are Farm Robotics. We're automating the shot delivery process for dairy and beef cows. And really where this problem derives from is the labor component and compliance. So right now, on average per year, more than 60 million shots are given to dairy cows in the US by hand. And so that coupled with the issues in terms of keeping skilled labor, finding skilled labor, labor wages increasing over time, as well as being involved in the competitive food marketplace, all these things combined have really created sort of an issue around the shot delivery process in the sense of neglecting a really important task that plays into the milk supply. And so what I mean by that is, for instance, Marinas has employees that are working on his dairy that are administering these shots to his cows, but sometimes he has good guys, sometimes he has guys that either can't be kept for too long or they decide to work for the dairy down the street. There's a ton of different scenarios on the labor side of things. So that combined with the compliance aspect in the sense of not always achieving 100% accuracy of giving these shots to these animals, dairy farmers really lose out on a lot of opportunities ranging from increased animal health standards, profitability. They're having to pay labor to give these shots by hand, where the entire process of shot delivery and data management could be automated. And not only would you not have to include labor in this process, but you could achieve, 99 to 100% accuracy of actually delivering these shots. And because of this, animals will not only be healthier over time and live longer lives, but the dairy farmer will also see an upside on the income side of things, both from saving on labor costs and also gaining income from increased immunity and also pregnancy rates. So that's really the problem that we're solving. There's a lot involved in this, but we're a passionate team of industry insiders and believe we can actually bring this technology to market. So thanks again for tuning in. Marinas, do you mind sharing how you've really come to face with these struggles over the years and how you came up with the idea?
Yeah, so I mean, like Alika said, I have a dairy myself. We were milking about 3,000 cows. We ended up selling just one dairy very recently for real estate. But besides that, we've been struggling with these issues for the past 20 plus years, but especially in the last 6-7 years when we started doing double offsetting programs on our herd. We really came to find out that at times we had really good results, and at times we had really bad results. And we kind of came to the conclusion almost every time it was labor related. Hiring new guys that weren't trained well, guys that doing a good job for a long time that all of a sudden kind of decide like, hey, we done really good. Like they get kind of lazier over time, and then we look at the numbers 28 to 35 days later and determine, hey, something happened, we go back. So this kept happening time after time, and me and Alika were talking one day and said, hey, what if we just automate this process? And so that's how we kind of came up with this idea to make it robotic. And in the meanwhile, we researched patents and stuff like that and decided to file for a patent and start this business about 3 years ago, and here we are today, trying to raise capital to finish our prototype and hopefully go to market soon. So that's how it pretty much came about.
Thanks, Brunis. I'll hand it over to you, Connor.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Connor, the Chief Marketing Officer, and we had a couple people send in some questions before the webinar that they had, and they're not able to join us. And if you guys have some questions, make sure you just drop it in the comment box below, or you can privately message me that in the chat, and we will get to them after the first few questions. So the first question we got is, what is Wefunder, and how could investors get a potential return?
Yeah, I'll take that. So essentially, Wefunder, it's an equity crowdfunding platform that is regulated by the SEC, and essentially, in basic terms, it really democratizes capitalism. We wanted to choose Wefunder as our crowdfunding platform because it's the most legitimate that we've seen, the most funds that were raised, but most importantly too, we are focused on doing this round as a community effort, really bringing together anyone interested in technology or agriculture or improving animal health standards. That's really why we chose to pivot to this way of investing for this round, because we believe through the ag community, we can, really bring together like-minded people and bring this technology to market to really improve animal health standards globally. So the way Wefunder works on the investment side of things, investors could potentially see return down the road once we're either able to be acquired by another company or go to an IPO. And so unlike the stock market, you can't invest your money and then reinvest into something else right after that. This is a longer term investment that people need to know that this is a really risky investment. I mean, we need to commercialize, prove the concept, commercialize, and expand globally. So yeah, that's kind of why we chose Wefunder and how the investment side of things work.
Great. Yeah. And then the second question is there a need for your solution in the industry, and what is the reward for dairy farmers that use it rather than using the human labor for this portion of the operation?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I mean, the need is there, especially for larger dairies. I mean, our target market is essentially 1,500 cows and up, and or if they already implemented robotics on a milking side. I think there's a huge potential. People that already do double offsings, they know that there's huge amounts of shots are given on a weekly basis. So those people will significantly save on labor. People that are kind of looking at implementing these shots, and a lot of people decide they don't want to because of labor. They don't want to hire them. They don't want to manage it. I think those are the real high payoffs or ROI, so to speak, especially when they have low prec rates. The average for the nation is about 17 to 18 prec rate. Each point of prec rate pays off $15 to $25, depending a little bit how high you are. So it adds up quick, $20 per cow times thousands of cows that they're milking, that they can increase, pretty much instantly, right? Within a month, you can probably go from a 17 to a 23 prec rate. It pays off significantly. And I think that's our target market, right? People that are struggling and people that have a lot of labor and struggling with it. So there's a huge market.
Great. Yeah, and then just going off that payoff that you talked about, a lot of our marketing is focused on improving the lives of dairy cows and dairy farmers. But at the end of the day, we are a business and need to make money. So how does the company plan to make money?
Yeah, so several ways, both from one-time sales as well as recurring revenue sources. So that entails unit sales of our robotic injection systems, as well as the installation fees that will be tagged on to that. And then our recurring revenue generators include our licensing fees, software subscription, and also we'll be, ideally receiving an incentive from each sale of pharmaceutical that is made. And then eventually down the road, once we have enough systems deployed, we would like to explore monetization of data, essentially.
Great, yeah, and just to clarify for everyone that's on the call too, we will own the data that's from our systems that's being recorded from that. So I think that's a big plus for us, as big data, that term is thrown around a lot in business these days. So speaking into, expanding into selling data, what other potential market opportunities could farm robotics focus on in the future?
Take that one, Alika.
Yeah, I mean, I think dairy is the start of what our company is eventually going to be. I think we're for sure focused on dairy because that's where we're the most skilled and we can really define value for the customer. And so the nice thing about our technology compared to our indirect competitors, you know, you have robotic milking systems, you have robotic teat dippers, but the thing is, unlike them, we are able to go into different animal types as well as potentially different industries down the road. But animal types wise, you know, while we're focused on the dairy industry and serving customers there, we also want to target the beef industry. We've had quite a few cattle ranchers come up to us during trade shows who have had interest, and we're really interested in pursuing that market as well. And we think we can define value for them. It's just really finding out, you know, how we can make our system work for their operation and how it can improve the lives of their animals. So currently in the works, and beyond that, we also have the availability to eventually transition to other animals such as swine, goats, sheep, any animal that could essentially utilize injectables. So that's kind of the plan in the longer term.
Great. And then what are some of the obstacles that the team thinks that the company is going to face in both the short term and long term, and how does the team plan to overcome those obstacles?
Yeah, I'd say some of the development parts of it, you know, robotic arms, you know, what robotic arms to choose, and arm tooling, you know, where the needles go. I mean, we need to design all that stuff. So, I mean, those are some obstacles. I think it's going to be a little bit of trial and error, but I mean, I definitely think they're overcomable, you know, fairly easy by having the right team. And, you know, we chose Cimation as our developer for the robotics, and you know, they're very, very capable of it. You know, there's a lot of off-the-shelf products that we're going to be utilizing. So we're trying to, you know, not necessarily design every part of it. Like if something already works, we're going to implement it on ours. But I think those are some of the obstacles we need to overcome. I think the trapping of the cows, giving the shot, you know, with the ability of the robotic arm is no issues. But yeah, those I think are some of the bigger ones.
Yeah. I was just going to tag on, I think longer term too, we're really focused on educating our customers, you know, about our system and the potential that their herds could be receiving. So market adoption could be a potential, you know, challenge in terms of just finding those initial customers, just because even robotics in the dairy industry are, you know, somewhat still new in terms of people adopting them. So I think through having an educational approach that can show farmers how they can improve their health standards and profitability will be a good approach in actually selling these units to producers.
Yeah, I would agree. And just go further on that point, it is cool that we are introducing more robotics to the farming agricultural industry. But there already are the robotic milkers, the feed pushers, and other robotics that are already on the dairies. So while that's still a hurdle, we're not the first in the sense of introducing a robotics to farmers. So that's going to help us clear that hurdle a little bit easier. But then our next question is from Ned. Ned, thanks for joining us. His question is, what about sizing some of the equipment so that we would have recurring sales to replace with only our equipment?
I think that's something we're definitely still exploring with our initial integrators for this first prototype. I think what that question alludes to, we're definitely open-minded to more revenue generators in that sense, but I think we really need to fine-tune our first prototype before we can actually move forward with going through an additional revenue stream like that. So I think in time we'll be able to accomplish that goal. It's just a matter of timing itself. We're still very early stages of prototyping.
Yeah, just to kind of have some ideas to what we could add to our robot. I mean, we talked about doing teeth spraying on there, marking cows, you know, little stuff like that. I mean, that obviously could be fairly easy to implement, which could be some reoccurring revenues. Sales of needles, like Alika said earlier, sales of pharmaceuticals. I mean, I think those are the big ones, right? Since we give a lot of shots.
And then we got a question from Mike. Mike, thanks for joining us and for recognizing our patent that we just got. I think our team's really excited about that. That definitely brought some good news heading into the new year. His question is, can you share an overview of the patent claims and the patent significance?
Yeah, so essentially the patent claims, what it really entails is the entire robotic injection system, from the automated gates to the end of arm tooling to the data management process that goes on behind this process, and then also the robotic arm in terms of the amount of axes that it could have. So it's pretty all encompassing. Like Connor said, we're pretty stoked about the patent coming through on its first response from the USPTO, because essentially the examiner wanted us to just change some wording in our claims. So the examiner essentially found it as novel and therefore granted it on the first time rather than 2 to 4 times. So the patent encompasses really the whole system, not just one particular element. So yeah, thank you for your question, Mike.
And then we have a question from Wayne. How fast do you expect a farmer to get a return on investment in our product?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. It depends a little bit on how good they're doing now when it comes to preg rates. But we have some different models that we tried for different size dairies. But in general, about 90+% of the models were return on investment within 3 years. But then if you look at some bigger dairies, 4,000 cows and up, I mean, they were as quick as a year. But like I said, it all depends a little bit on how many people they can save on labor. So for instance, if you have 3-4 guys giving shots right now in the larger dairies, you can eliminate all that labor. So that essentially would be, 3 guys at $40,000-$50,000 a piece, $150,000 to $200,000 savings there, with an investment between $300,000 and $450,000. So I mean, that's 2 years to 2.5 years. But then if you have guys that have low preg rates and they bump those up and save on labor at the same time, I mean, those are guys that can probably get it paid off in a year. And then how many robots do you essentially need? In most cases, it'd be just one robot with multiple lanes, and that's one robot per milk barn. And especially in rotary barns, I mean, those would be the easier installs since, they have a single exit lane. But yeah, one robot, I'd say on a rotary dairy of 80 to 100 cows, you probably need 4 to 5 lanes. But yeah, just one robot in most cases.
Yeah, and then to go further on what Marinas was talking about in terms of the spreadsheet for the return on investment for dairy farmers, we actually are willing to share that with farmers, and where they can insert their own farms data, so how much they're paying their employees, what their current preg rate is, and what their goal preg rate is. And we've also used studies from University of Wisconsin to come up with the increase in revenue from increasing the preg rates. So if anybody is looking for that as a farmer and wants to see how it's going to impact their operation, feel free to email us at investor.relations@farmrobotics.net. And I just included that in the chat for everyone. And then Grant has a question. What vaccinations are being administered to cows now? Are they usually given once per year, or are there multiple shots per animal per year? So great question, Grant.
Yeah, there's definitely multiple shots. There's coli vaccines and then reproductive vaccines, 5 ways, 9 ways. There's multiple, but like a coli vaccine, for instance, they need 3 of those a year. The 9-way or 5-way, it's 1 shot per year. But then you obviously have the reproductive hormone aspect of it, which on average it's 5 for dairies, but people that do double offsings, you're looking at probably 20 plus shots per year. We're also looking at maybe doing vitamins and trace minerals through shots, which that would be potentially another 4 or 5 shots a year, so per cow. So it adds up pretty significantly.
And then kind of big picture on that, we kind of looked at Marinus' dairy when he was managing 3,000 cows and found that on average, they gave about 54,000 shots annually to those 3,000 cows. And that's all currently being done by hand right now.
Yeah.
Next question is, I've noticed that some Wefunder races offer an owner beta opportunity with a specific minimum investment. Have you considered a beta offer to incent dairy farmers to invest?
So yeah, that's definitely something we've discussed. I think we're trying to really find what would make the most sense for both parties in a scenario like that. We recently updated our perks on Wefunder, and essentially this was the next thing we really wanted to get to. And so we haven't finalized anything yet, but these are discussions we're having because, yeah, I mean, there's several producers that we have in mind, and they could potentially put up, a significant investment. So if they're interested in a beta opportunity like that, I think it's just a matter of having those discussions and kind of talking things through what would make sense and what wouldn't for something like that.
Great. And then when do you expect the first production of robots in the market?
Yeah, so if assuming everything keeps going well with Wefunder, it'll take about 6 months to complete our prototype. So that puts us around September, October time, and we would deploy that first unit on Marinus' dairy in Southern California.
And then when do you expect to be selling units to the general public, I guess?
Yeah, so selling units to the general public would be early 2022 is our target.
Yeah, that's correct.
Are the robots networked for control and or data collection?
Yes, they will be.
And so I think what he's referring to, if I'm understanding the question correctly, so basically after the cow gets her shot, that shot record data is automatically going to be uploaded to the dairy farmer's data management system. So compared to how it's done now, is the dairy farmers go out, give whatever shots are needed on the dairy, and then have to go back in and manually upload which shots were given to which cows. So this data collection is going to happen in real time once the shots are given, so the farmer can look that up on their computer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Connor.
All right, any more questions from anyone in the audience? Thank you all for joining us again today too. We'll just see if there's any more questions. How do you recognize each animal? Is there an existing system or a new one that you've developed?
No, it'll be an existing system as long as they have RFID. So, most dairies these days have RFID identification in their ear already. So we are wanting to utilize that. It's a cheap way of identifying the cow. In most cases, they're between $2 to $3 per tag, depending on a little bit how many you buy and which kind you buy. But yeah, so RFID recognition. Our goal is to do 99% or higher. So yeah, there's no need for like an expensive pedometer. I mean, we all know the pedometers that are out there, SCR, AFI systems. I mean, they're like $60 to $100 per tag. So we're definitely don't want to go that route, just to keep it on the cheaper side for the dairy farmer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then to go further on that, to identify the cows, we're training our system against, thousands of different hide patterns and benchmarking it against different distinguishable body parts on the cow, such as, head, neck, shoulder, in order to identify where to locate the shot and give it.
Yeah.
And then the next question is, any long-term plans to take this internationally, and what are the hurdles there?
Yeah, we don't really see any significant hurdles necessarily to that, but the definitely plan is to go international, especially on the larger farms. We had a bit of interest from people in Europe, and I don't know why I can't think of the name right now.
Middle
help
East.
me out here quick. Middle East.
Yeah.
So there's some large dairies in the Middle East. They showed interest. But yeah, definitely international.
And just to tag on to that, this kind of goes back to an earlier question that I believe Mike asked. We intend to file international patents as well. That's something that we're looking into and getting into the early steps of doing. So we do have that in mind. And additionally, in terms of our IP, the plan is to keep improving upon our IP and file additional applications. That way we could essentially build a patent family and just build a really robust technology base for farm robotics in terms of intellectual property.
Great. I don't see any more questions in the chat. We'll just give it a couple more seconds if anyone has any more questions. But like always, if you have questions later on, feel free to email us or reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer them, whether through email or even on the Wefunder page. There's a section where you can ask questions as well.
Yeah.
And I think too, I was just going to round off kind of this discussion, kind of keeping you guys in the loop on where we're at. So while we're still continuing to raise through Wefunder, we are working with a university called California State University Chico. So they're essentially helping us construct and test the gate system and bumper restraint that will hold the cow in place while she gets the shot. So construction of this system is coming up within the next few weeks when we'll start. So pretty exciting stuff there. And the idea is to take that system and integrate it with the overall project on Marinus's dairy come September, October time. So just to kind of keep you guys in the loop on where you're going at. And yes, that is Chico in Northern California.
Yeah. And then Aliki, you want to give them a quick update on where we're at on Wefunder?
Yeah, so I believe we're at 108,000 right now on Wefunder, and things are going well. We're expected to hit our 175 milestone here in the next couple weeks. So yeah, I really think this was the right path for us to pursue for this round, just given how early we are. So we'd love to have all you on board and consider investing in farm robotics and really being a part of this community and bringing this technology to life. So thank you all again for joining the webinar.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this was very successful and very helpful, and we'll for sure do this again.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, we plan to do this monthly, as like they said. So feel free to tune in next month and keep supporting us by sharing and engaging in our social media. And thanks for the great questions and a lot of the engagement today.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.